Do you know what checking Instagram before bed, grabbing a third slice of pizza, and skipping a workout to binge a show all have in common? They are all small killers of your motivation. Your brain works in a very simple way. The more pleasure you get right now, the less capable it is of wanting something tomorrow. Today, I will show you how this mechanism actually works and why people who constantly chase pleasure often end up the most unhappy and unmotivated. In 1954, two scientists, James Olds and Peter Milner, accidentally discovered something that completely changed our understanding of motivation. They implanted electrodes into a specific area of a rat's brain and gave the rats a lever. One press and an electrical impulse produced a powerful sense of pleasure. Do you know what happened next? The rats pressed that lever thousands of times per hour. Olds and Milner found that stimulating certain neural pathways created a pathologically strong drive to repeat the behavior, even to the point of ignoring basic needs like sleep and food. This became one of the foundational proofs of how the dopamine motivation system works. For many years, dopamine was thought to be the pleasure hormone, but this is a deep misunderstanding, and it is still very common. In reality, dopamine is a molecule of anticipation, of expecting a reward. It tells your brain, hey, pay attention, something good might happen. Imagine this. You see a notification on your phone. At that moment, dopamine is released. You reach for your phone and get another hit of dopamine. You open the message, and often there is nothing special there, right? But your brain already got the dopamine, not from the content of the message, but from the act of checking itself. That is why you can scroll your feed for hours without getting any real pleasure, yet still keep going. Dopamine turns on at the anticipation of the next post, the next video, the next swipe. At this point, you might be asking, so what's the actual problem? The issue is that your brain has a baseline level of dopamine. When you get fast pleasure, sugar, social media, binge watching, anything instantly available, dopamine spikes sharply. Your brain says, wow, that's a lot of dopamine. And what does it do next? It lowers the baseline. This is called downregulation, a decrease in dopamine receptor sensitivity. Dr. Anna Lembke, a Stanford professor of psychiatry and the author of Dopamine Nation, explains it this way. The brain is always trying to maintain balance. If you constantly flood it with dopamine through easy pleasures, it compensates by pushing the baseline lower. As a result, ordinary things, like working on a project, exercising, or reading a book, start to feel unbearably boring. They do not produce the same sharp dopamine spike, and your brain responds with, no thanks, that's too slow, give me something fast. Motivation to work toward long-term goals requires a healthy baseline level of dopamine. When that baseline is lowered by constant stimulation, you simply do not have the energy to move toward difficult goals. You become dependent on fast pleasures. Have you ever heard yourself say, I know I should, but I just can't make myself do it? That is what dopamine depletion looks like. People with a lower dopamine baseline show less motivation to engage in effortful tasks. They are more likely to choose easy activities with a large, immediate dopamine reward instead of harder tasks with slow dopamine, even though those tasks lead to long-term satisfaction. There is another important detail in this so-called dopamine paradise. Remember the rats pressing the lever thousands of times? Over time, they needed more and more stimulation to get the same effect. The same thing happens to you. The first serving of ice cream feels amazing, rich, delicious. By the third one, you barely taste it, yet you keep eating. You are chasing stronger stimulation with less and less pleasure. All of this takes a serious toll on your ability to work. If your brain is used to fast dopamine, it simply does not know how to wait. It demands immediate reward, and when that reward is not there, you quit. You open a document to work, 2 minutes later your hand reaches for your phone. Why? Because work does not give you an instant dopamine hit, but your phone does. Your brain chooses the easier path. Timothy Peichel, a psychology professor at Carleton University and a leading expert on procrastination, explains that procrastination has nothing to do with time management. The problem is emotion regulation. You avoid the discomfort of a difficult task in exchange for immediate relief. And the more often you do this, the harder it becomes to start. So the question is, how do you deal with fast dopamine? There is an answer. You may have heard of dopamine fasting. The term itself is oversimplified. You cannot fast from dopamine because it is produced all the time. But consciously reducing high stimulation activities can be extremely helpful. When you limit fast dopamine, your brain gradually restores receptor sensitivity. This process can take anywhere from a few days to several weeks, depending on how overloaded your system is. And this is exactly when things that once felt boring start to feel rewarding again. Simple tasks stop triggering resistance. Your attention becomes more stable without the constant urge to switch. You can once again get satisfaction not from a spike of stimulation, but from the process and the result. Your goal is not to eliminate pleasure, but to restore balance. When fast dopamine stops controlling your behavior, motivation starts working for you instead of against you. All you need is to retune the chemical processes in your brain that have been running in emergency mode for far too long. Real satisfaction does not come from pleasure, but from growth, from pushing yourself, from what psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi called flow, a state of deep engagement in a challenging task. And flow requires one thing, a properly functioning dopamine system that can sustain motivation without constant external stimulation. If you are interested in social psychology, subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn more about what science recommends for a happier life, check out these videos.